It's all about the continuing story of God's presence to the chosen people of Israel and to all people in the planet. It's a story about physics. It's a story about the future. It's a story about many things. And hopefully I can get to them all in about 20 minutes. Okay. So, I'm going to take you clear back to the beginning. And when we go back to Genesis 1:1, we read that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was void, it was without form, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And then we read about the Spirit brooding over the waters. What a wonderful image. When you think of brooding, you think of chickens laying on their eggs. It's that same energy that there's a brooding, there's a sense of something being hatched, being opened, and something making it happen. And quiz time. What was the first thing that God created? Light. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And that is what this day is about. It is about light. Okay? And if you are, say, an astrophysicist, and perhaps you are someone who supports the theory of Big Bang or whatever, you have that same experience, that the first thing is light. Light is the beginning of everything. And light is the image that comes forth in our scriptures again and again. And it came to us today in the story of the Transfiguration. The Greek word is metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is the Greek word that we translate to transfiguration. It's the idea that something ceases to be what it was and something else. We use that word when we talk about butterflies who create their cocoon around them, and they're in a larval form, very wormy looking, and when they come out they have incredible wings and they can fly. And butterflies are a wonderful metaphor for metamorphosis. So what you have is this idea of something that started out looking one way and suddenly becomes something else. Okay? So, take that idea, light, put it over here just for a moment, because I want to go back into the Old Testament now about the story of the mountain. Okay. Jim was very generous with his knowledge about the mountain, the base of the mountain, the fact that when you are going to meet God, you go up. You go up the mountain. Now, when I was in seminary and I was studying about Christian liturgy, we were given to understand that a lot of the forms of liturgy that we use in our services are taken from Greek drama. Go figure. And I remember thinking about some of those Greek and Roman structures from that age and how everything went downward. So if you go to the Roman Colosseum, all of the action is at ground level and everybody else is sitting up from it and looking down. So I checked out some pictures of Greek theaters, and it's the same structure. All the action is taking place on the ground and everybody else is sitting above it. So what we're looking at here is a reversal of the sense of what's going on and where it's happening. What's happening is not on the ground with everyone looking down at it. What is happening is on the mountain, and you have to look up, okay? When you're my size, you hope that you get a seat on the end. So you're not just looking up, but you're kind of looking this way, so you can see everything, okay? This is not fun to be this size sometimes. But there's this idea that when you are beholding God and when you're beholding the works of God, the focus goes up. And so we have Moses going up the mountain. We have Elijah meeting God on a mountaintop. And in today's story, Jesus takes Peter and James and John up the mountain with him for this experience. Now, so they're going up the mountain and they have no idea why, but they've gone up mountains with Jesus before, because that's where he goes to pray. That's where he goes to find solace. That's where he goes to find his union, his communion with God is on the top of the mountain. And he takes his 3 closest disciples with him. Okay, so we have gone up the mountain. And what happens is, the first thing that happens is this looking at Jesus and seeing that. I'm sure they're looking at this and they're going, forgive me, holy Moses, what's happening here? Okay? Because Jesus is lighting up, much as they would have seen in their minds God lighting up before Moses. Okay? Please remember, all these people that go up the mountain with him, they're Jews. And the stories they carry in their hearts are the stories of Moses and the stories of Elijah and the stories of all the prophets, the judges, the kings, David, Solomon, on down. These are in their minds and their hearts. So when they go up the mountain with Jesus and they see what's happening, they literally, most likely, feel like Moses did when he saw God and did not know what to do, except Peter. Peter always knows what to do. He's always got an idea, and Jesus is constantly having to say, tone it down. And what Peter is being called to do is to keep his focus in the moment. When you are in that presence, the last thing you do is think about how can I make this work? How can I turn this into a musical? How can I build a temple around this? No. You are called to be one with the light in that very moment. And that is the story that Peter shares. Okay? These are not clever stories. This is what happens when God is in your presence and you are in God's presence. Everything else fades away, fades into darkness. Having said that, remember again, because we've mentioned this before, and I'll probably say it 100 more times because we are reading the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew, the author of Matthew, was writing this Gospel for the early church, which was a Jewish church. He was writing for the Jewish people who were following Jesus. So a lot of his story is grounded in Jewish scripture. So when Jesus goes up the mountain with his disciples, he sees Moses, who represents the law. They see Elijah, who represents the prophets. Okay, so Jesus is placed firmly in the tradition of the law and the prophets. Okay, he's doing a new thing, but he's not doing a new thing outside of the structure of the Jewish faith, the Jewish people, their community, their laws, their religion. Within it. And Peter's instinctive intention is, this is holy, and what do Jewish people do? So they build a booth around it. Okay? That's just what they do. And so you have this strong sense of Peter, like many of us, saying, how can we take this light and make it manageable for us, so we can use it in a good way? Why not? Well, you can't do that with light. Anybody ever tried to hold light in your hand? Can't do it. Have you tried to hold 2 hands? Can't do it. What happens when you put your hands together? There's no light in there. It's dark. It's dark. Okay. So you have to realize that we don't manage light. Light lives within and through us. what we have here is an experience of light falling on human eyes, and the first instinct of some of them, and Peter, he is a person in his own right, but in many ways he kind of becomes a metaphoric character for all of humanity that wants so badly to do the right thing that they sort of bungle it all up because they don't have their focus in the right place. It's not about the booths. It's not about the holidays. It's just about the light. So now I'm going to carry us back to just the light. Now, everything is a form of energy. And the first energy that came forth in creation was light. So at some level, what we have to see is everything is light. The only reason we can see each other's faces today is light. Light is the fundamental energy of everything that exists. That is in the creation story, and it's in the stories the myths, shall we call them myths, that we hear from science about light. And the other thing to remember about this idea is light is a primordial form of energy. So another way to say this is that everything is a form of energy. Okay? Now, if you could take like a little telescope thing, put it anywhere on your body, and look through it, and like a microscope, and you just go higher and higher and higher and higher magnification. Say you put it on, say your arm here, and you can see your skin. And then you see your skin is made up of individual cells, okay? And you can look deeper into those cells, and you see that cells are made up of molecules, and molecules are made up of atoms. And atoms are made up of what? They're made up of mostly space, empty space. An atom resembles a teeny tiny solar system. And what you have is that little nucleus at the center, and then you have the subatomic particles that orbit around it. And these subatomic particles, guess what? They can disappear and reappear. And they can disappear over here and end up over there. And then come back to where they were. Okay, so take that picture of the single atom and put it back in there. And then multiply it by billions. We are light. We are energy. And what happens when you split an atom? What happens when you split an atom? This is a quiz, sorry. What happens? Thank you, Joe. Boom! The amount of energy stored in an atom is immense. It's almost incomprehensible. Okay? And multiply that by billions in your own body. Trillions in everything we see here. Okay? That's what we are talking about when we talk about transfiguration and when we talk about light. So how do we make this connection? How do we take this story of light into ourselves and then say, okay, how are we supposed to be Christian with all of this stuff? What did Jesus say to us? He said, I remember this because I preached on this a few weeks ago. He said, you are the light of the world. Now, anyone living in those days did not have that understanding of light and energy. They had no idea what an atom was. But we do. So we can take these wonderful words of Jesus and we can go, That's probably the most powerful thing anyone's ever said to me. You are the light of the world. Amazing. So, sometimes I don't have the words to finish these things, so I count on other people to do it for me. And I'm quoting Patrick Wilson, who was a professor, seminary professor. Some would say that God is much too much to be contained within the walls of a church. Of course, they were right. Some would remind us that God is so great that neither the earth below nor the heavens above can hold God. Certainly, we must agree with them. God is certainly so great that God can never be contained as something as small as a crumb of bread or a sip of wine. We nod our heads, yeah, but we must hasten to add furthermore, God is so great, so majestic, so glorious, that God deigns come to us in a crumb of bread and a sip of wine, just as much of God as a hand can hold. So what we have here is the idea in Jesus. Light can be contained, but only as it is given away. Light can be contained within each of us, but it's only light if we are reaching out with it. When Jesus told his followers that they were the light of the world, he went on to say, you can't hide it. You have to be it. And you have to be it every waking moment of your life. And perhaps if you find that notion a bit challenging, reflect perhaps when you arise or when you move into your meditations or morning prayers on that image of infinite light and infinite energy. You have to remember that the people who wrote these ancient scriptures knew only so much about the universe. They only knew what they could see. And now that we have amazing telescopes, we know that God is so much bigger than we could ever imagine. We know that creation is bigger than we could ever conceive. And yet, Creator became a physical presence among us to help us understand that light is best used when it takes shape. Whether it's contained in a light bulb, or the flame of a candle, or a campfire, or whether it burns in human hearts. And it drives us to reach outward, to take all of that power, all of that energy, all of that presence, and to put it in the palm of our hand. And to put that hand on the shoulder of someone who is grieving. Or put that arm around someone who needs friendship. Or both of those hands picking up a child who needs nurturance and assurance that they will be cared for. We are the light of the world. When we acknowledge that light, when we see ourselves as that light, then we are transfigured. And we are not just human beings. We are the light of Amen.